The Corsair One i40 and i60 gaming PC is incredibly fast with Intel's 9th Gen 8-core processor, up to an RTX 2080 Ti graphics card and 32GB of Vengeance LPX RAM, all packed inside a compact bead-blasted aluminum shell with excellent cooling. Both CPU and GPU are cooled using a patented assisted convection liquid cooling system, achieving higher clock speeds, lower temperatures, and minimal noise. With Corsair's advanced IQ software, you can configure the system's fan, monitor system performance, and personalize your lighting. To learn more, click the link below. So this is the new BitFenix Enso Mesh. It's a mid-tower case that goes for $90. It sports a tempered glass side panel, a PSU shroud, and 2 included 120mm fans. The rear fan is RGB, whereas the front fan is not. You know, building in this case, I quickly realized that it's far from perfect. There were some questionable design choices that makes the $90 price tag on here seem very steep. So let's take a closer look. So the case is designed to fit up to an ATX motherboard, but I was able to squeeze in the Aura's Z270X, which is an eATX motherboard, without any problems. The case has 2 USB 3 ports up top, alongside a power and reset button, and a dedicated button to control the addressable RGB lighting. With the integrated controller in the back, you're able to daisy chain their RGB fans and the RGB strips together, so it's a lot easier to change the colors at once. Alternatively, they are compatible with ASUS AutoSync, so you can actually hook up the cables directly to the 5-volt RGB header on your motherboard if it's available. Speaking of RGB, the front panel has these accents on all 4 corners that are connected with the controller as well, making it very easy to sync all the lighting together. I personally think it looks really cool, combined with the mesh filter, which lets you see through them. So if you have any RGB fans installed in the front of a radiator, like I did in this build, then you'll be able to see them. From the top, you can control the lighting. You can either set a solid color for all the connected devices or select from a few rainbow effects. What's disappointing about this is for some reason they didn't include a white option. If you guys are going to be using any CPU or GPU that runs hot, for example the new 9th Gen Coffee Lake processors, then I do recommend going with the mesh version for better airflow. Otherwise, they do sell a non-mesh version for around the same price. Cleaning the filters are really easy. The PSU filter is located on the side of the case, but you would need to remove the side panel first to access it. The front mesh panel is magnetic, but it's kind of annoying to remove since the tab is located too close to the bottom, so you're gonna have to tilt the PC a little bit to grab a hold of it. Removing the filter allows you to install up to a 360mm radiator more easily since you can screw them in from the front. However, you can remove the entire front panel if you need extra space. Additionally, you can add fans behind the radiator for a push and pull configuration as long as there's enough clearance between the rad and your GPU. The case does support a good amount of storage. You can mount 1 SSD on the tray over on the right side if you're only using a single SSD like I am, but if you're using more, you can actually mount 2 additional ones on the left side. But if you still need more space for your SSDs, then you can use the hard drive trays. So in total, this case supports up to 5 SSDs or 3 SSDs and 2 hard drives. For cable management, it's not terrible. You do get 23mm of space behind the motherboard tray and some extra space near the bottom next to the power supply. Please note, if you guys are using a longer power supply, then you will have a lot less room to work with down here. Unfortunately, the hard drive cage is not removable as they are bolted directly on the PSU shroud, which also acts as a support. There is one thing I don't like about the cable management aspect of the case, and that is the amount of grommets it has. There's only 2 on the motherboard tray, and I would have loved to see 1 more near the top. Instead, there's just this empty space on the top right. Another really annoying thing I noticed while building in here is that there is no cutout near the top of the motherboard tray, which is shocking. I tried to route the cables for the Corsair AIO and the fans, only to find out there wasn't any. So I was kind of forced to route the cables towards the right side, which does not look clean at all. But it doesn't even stop there, guys. No siree. You know how almost every single case has plenty of space on the top left corner to route the cables for your EPC power connector? Well, this case doesn't. The hole is only big enough to route thin wires. So what does this mean? Well, this means that I had to route the cables towards the right side once again. Luckily, I was able to hide the cable behind the fans. Also, a side note, make sure to hook up all your cables to the motherboard before installing the fans on the top because you're not gonna have any space to route the cables behind them. It's a pretty tight fit. You know, it's small things like that where I'm thinking constantly, what is the design team thinking when they approve the final product? You know, while I'm nitpicking, I do want to say that I'm not a fan of the thumb screws on the tempered glass panels. It's kind of annoying having to remove 4 screws while holding up the side panel, which is prone to fingerprints. I much prefer the hinge design like other cases have, for example the Evolve X from Fantex. One thing I do like about the glass panel though is that it's not tinted too dark, so you can easily see through it. In terms of cooling, I was getting really great temps using the 7700K and the Aorus GTX 1080. While gaming, the GPU stayed under 70 degrees and the CPU stayed under 60 degrees constantly, which is great considering the 7700K runs hotter, on average between 70 to 80 degrees, sometimes even in the 90s. The 2 fans in the front of the radiator acting as intake, sucking in cold air through the front mesh panel helped out a lot. You know, I feel like they focused more on the RGB features of the case rather than the actual functionality. For $90, I definitely expected more of a refined product. I mean, yeah, the RGB features are really cool and I think it's a great looking case with great airflow, but I think $90 is a bit steep for a case with so many flawed design choices. Regardless, if you guys want to check it out, I'll drop a link to the case as well as the power supply and the RGB fans that I used inside this build. If you guys enjoyed the video, consider leaving a like if you want to see more like it, and if you didn't, you know what to do. If there's a specific case you guys want me to pick up and do a review and a build inside, let me know in the comment section down below. I love your nose holes. I will see you in the next video. Peace.